Welcome back. MTG Joe here. Today we're doing a weekly metagame analysis, breakdown, shakedown, whatever you want to call it. We're looking at the best decks on the MTG Arena ladder, focusing on the standard format. We're going to look at best of three. We did best of one earlier in the week if you're interested there. For that best of one, we did kind of some off meta decks. The best of one meta decks were literally the exact four decks in the exact same order this week. So a little slow there, but we're getting the data from Untapped GG. What you see on the screen, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client, aggregates users' win rates, gives a bunch of stats. We also have the leaderboard for Mythic for users that use it as well. So look through that, pulled up at least one unique deck that someone's doing well with that we'll feature at the end of the video. So I'll paste all these deck lists, timestamp them so you're good for that. If you want to use Untapped, link is in the video description as well. So everything that you'll need is there. We're going to be focusing on Diamond and Mythic rank for the last week. Before we jump into the stats, I just genuinely wanted to ask a question, get people's vibes. We're going to have Bloomburrow spoilers coming out July 9th, so in about 2-ish weeks, but are folks taking a break from Standard over the summer? Are they doing more drafting? Have they moved into Modern Masters? Kind of where are you at? A lot of it is, for me, the format is kind of played out. I don't know how much more innovation is necessarily there. But interested to see people's thoughts if they're still enjoying Standard, where it's at. I'm just trying to figure out my content suite. Still do the metagame analysis, but when I'm doing gameplay, stuff like that, it helps me kind of see where the kind of direct resources. We try to cover as many formats as possible on the channel, but we are limited with how much we can put it together in one spot. But let me know in the comments what you think. So popularity of the day, format, Boros is taking the lead in terms of the format, about 20%. Golgari mid at 11.5%. Esper mid 7, Simic Affinity, the Cookies deck at 6, Domain 6, Mono Red at 5, so kind of flat there. Domain's had quite the increase. We had it as low as 7.8 and it's climbed up to nearly 20%. Golgari decks always very popular in the Arena ladder. They're usually kind of mid-pack win rate, but always kind of played at a higher density than Esper mid-range. Usually peaks every time there's a Pro Tour or something. That we kind of see it jump up there. But looking at games played, 14,000 games played, June 13th through the 20th. Diamond and Mythic rank low. It's kind of low, to be honest. I think we're seeing kind of a drawback on that. I'm curious again if that's correlated to just the new hype being Modern Masters. That's going to be in Eternal formats. But sample size only 40, but Boros Convoke 82% win rate, very high win rate for the deck. What we're just seeing, no one-drop artifact creature. It's going for the full set of Sanguine Evangelist and Imidane's Recruiter. 2 War Leaders Call, only 2 case. We're also seeing an interesting 1 copy of Witch Stalker in the main. With this deck, just with the density of creatures that you have, it's basically 1 mana deal 5 most of the time. We're also seeing a Restless Biovac in the mana base. Interesting to see this as well as a Sundown Pass in here. These lines usually are a little bit awkward for your curving purposes, but having access to another creature line could be reasonable. To kind of go from there. We have Lithomantic Barrage for removal, Destroy Evil as removal, and then destroy things like Temporary Lockdown, Lantern Flare as scalable removal, Graveyard Hate with Rest in Peace, Thalia for tax, Knockout Blow for the mono red decks, and then Forge for the heavier removal decks. Hopping over, we got Teamer Control, Teamer Analyst, Teamer Ramp. So this deck here, you're basically putting lands into your graveyard with all these Kamigawa lands. They fetch themselves, gain you life, find you a basic, and then you bring them all back with Aftermath Analyst. With Nissa out, you generate a whole bunch of mana, and you get extra copies of an elemental or an elf off the second trigger from it, so you get some value there. Generate a whole bunch of mana, and then you either play out Virtue Strength to triple your mana, and then you fireball your opponent with World Soul's Rage. This version's on Galvanic Iteration, which can double up spells. Doppelgang can also be used as a win condition to just copy a whole bunch of things and get value that way there. Card Advantage with Memory Deluge, Ill-Time Explosion through Sweeper. Pick Your Poison, flexible kind of removal spell. Turn the Earth is for mill decks like Jace. You can, on your upkeep, flash it back so you don't get milled out. Traxxas Fall, Artifact Enchantment, Creature with Flying Hate, good against Domain. Negates for counters, Furl back, Graveyard Hate, Life Gain, Blow Up Enchantments, so Rest in Peace kind of hate. Vengeance as a cheaper super for Convoke, Baloth for discard decks, or even against aggressive decks, just another way to gain some life. Another way for their basically you have a backup plan to just shift into kind of a ramp deck if your opponent eats your graveyard a lot. So you have Laborious, you have Thrun, Bonnie Claw, Paul, and then Titan of Industry. So you just kind of shift your game plan. You then go to Esper Mid, 67%. So this deck here, a lot of different ways to build it. We got Wedding Announcements, we got Rafine, we see reintroduction of Kaido, Tishana Tiebinder in the main, Bats for Hand Hate, Denick, life gain, kind of control the graveyard a bit, 2 bodies in 1, Merry Mastermind. Berry Mastermind as a way to kind of draw some cards. Then just a removal package, go for the throw, cut down, shoot the sheriff, no more lies of disruption, flash threats across the board, Urtai, Wandering Emperor, Virtues, and then Big Bat God on the top end. Sideboard, Duress. For the grindier matchups, you could bring in like Caustic Bronco, even against like control and stuff. It's just a threat that comes down early that can draw you some cards and then potentially damage your opponent. Disdainful Stroke, negate, counter, pest control, very good against Convoke decks, Unlicensed Source for Graveyard. Assimilation Aegis is an interesting one. It's an equipment that exiles a creature and then you can have it become like the Aegis becomes a copy of the creature. Just, I don't know why you'd have this one. That one kind of baffles me. Like I could see it in like Stoneforge Mystic decks in Historic or Timeless because you could tutor it up, but interesting one to come in this deck. Lauren of the Third Path, Artifact Enchantment Hate, Temporary Lockdown for the aggressive decks. Interesting one here. Is it Pirates? 66% win rate. So we got Pirate Shenanigans. Spyglass Siren makes you an artifact, so it's kind of like an artifact sub-theme. Gleaming Geardrake, while not a artifact, gets bigger when you sack other artifacts. Malcolm lets you draw discard, another flash threat. You have Malcolm of the Eyes. Whenever you cast your second spell, you investigate. So other ways to kind of get artifacts. Staunch Crewmate helps you dig. And kind of go from there. Gets you pirates, gets you artifacts, which is nice. Breach is very strong. You get up to 3 of its abilities each turn when you have pirates attack. Treasure, card advantage, or get rid of blockers. Sightsail Larcenist as removal. And then the Belligerent. I can't tell you what this does off the top of my head, but when it attacks, you create a treasure until the end of the turn. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands and cast spells. So just card advantage, vehicle on the top end. Your pirates need to go into a pirate ship. Flip out the back for protection, and then Lost Cheetah as an equipment, taking advantage of Cavern of Souls and Myrex as well. Removal, Caught in the Crosshairs. So I guess kind of a sweeper that's one-sided for the Convoke matchups, which is kind of nice. You could name non-outlaws and then get their get the sweeper while keeping your pirates. Pirates are outlaws. Negates, Scorching Shot for bigger removal, Graveyard Hate, and Thashana for activated ability. Then go to the Cookies deck, 66%. So this is a deck popularized by Ash Lizzle, content creator. So another kind of artifact themed deck, but you're using things like Teething Wormlet that gets bigger. Lava Spur Boots gives your creatures ward and haste. Hard Hitting Questions is removal. Ginger Brute. So you're kind of playing a bunch of these activated ability style creatures. I get the Soul Cauldron, gives those creatures, and kind of you build your own super engine. You give it unblockable a number of ways, Ginger Brood or Surge Engine. Tough Cookie can animate your other smaller artifacts, so kind of some value there. Zoetic Glyph animates. Sentinel makes you artifacts as well. Big thing for this deck was getting the fast line, which was previously missing. Removal, Artifact Enchantment Hate, just flexible removal. Graveyard Hate, Disruption with counter spells. Sightsail is removal, and then Tashana for activated abilities. Mono Red Aggro, 65%. So this one's an interesting one. This one's more prowessy oriented. So it's your Slick Shot, Codebreaker version. You have 2 copies of Two-Headed Hunter that gives target creature double strike. So think of it almost like a Temur Battle Rage without the trample, but you can give it trample with either Demonic Ruckus or Monstrous Rage. Inti is another way to give trample with the deck. So runs Resolve, a little bit more prowess-oriented shell that works in that respect. 2 Sokuzans and 19 Mountains. Festivities for like Convoke, Lithomantic Barrage is removal, Strangle is removal, Return the Favor. Way to kind of copy, I guess. So you copy like Monstrous Rage or stuff. Copy target instant, sorcery, spell, activate ability, or triggered ability. You choose new targets for that copy. So I guess you can copy like an Atraxa ability or something like that. Again, not too sure where this one would come in. Haste for the grindier matchups, Twisted Fealty for stealing big stuff, heavy removal, you bring in the Forges, and Frenzy is 5 damage spell. We then go to Golgari midrange, 63%. So it's a Caustic Bronco version. We also have Freestyle Lookout that helps you ramp whenever you commit a crime. Lots of ways to commit crimes in this deck. A lot of removal, Hand Hate, Liliana for discard, Trespassers, Graveyard trigger also does a crime. The Dread Knight's one of the main reasons to play Golgari, gives you the card advantage along with Glissa, which is just really tough to deal with in combat, provides a lot of advantage. Hostile Negotiator, or Investigator, not Negotiator. Oh, I got one of these. Didn't realize I got one. I was missing them for a while. Just forces discard, works on either players. If you do like Liliana plus, if your opponent has Rafine and they're conniving, you get the token. So in the grindier matchups, just provides you some resources. Sheoldreds, Bat Gods, and kicks command as a sweeper. You'll have like just various removal, hand hate options, just flexible kind of things. Liliana for the control matchup, Path to Peril for the aggressive decks, Tranquil Fillback, all nodes are relevant at times in standard. Sorin for the grindier matchups, as well as Run for like either heavy counterspell or even the mirrors reasonable. And the last deck, this one is from Mimics. They're 23-10 with the deck into Mythic. And this is, let's pull it up. It's a black-white kind of value engine. So you have a bunch of ETB style effects, things like Hopeless Nightmare, Novice Inspector, the Tithing Blade forces opponent to sacrifice. That all feeds Braids, which you could sacrifice them afterwards, these permanents. So it's kind of like a Doom Foretold-esque strategy. You have permanents that have an effect that then can be sacked for other effects. So Braids can sack them. You have Fortune Loyal Seed, and it attacks if it's saddled at the end. So it enters battlefield, scry 2. Whenever it attacks while saddled at the end of combat, exile it and up to one other creature that saddled it, then return those cards to the battlefield. So you have a lot of ETB style creatures. The Nurturing Pixie can rebuy any of these effects. Guardian of Girapur, exile up to one target creature or artifact. So notably, Tithing Blade is an artifact, for example. You can also blink. It's kind of like the Scam at Home deck. So you can blink these, cast them for their prototype cost, and then blink them for the full value. Force to discard with like Hostile, Shield, kind of mixed in. The elements of the like Golgari mid, but some more blink effects. Cut downs, duress, pet control. We've kind of highlighted all these cards at this point. So just various options for the more controlling matchups, like the graveyard matchups for like Analyst, aggro matchups like Convoke, you have Pest Control, Path to Peril mixed in. That's it for the week. Let me know what you think. If you've been enjoying Standard, we'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.